All right, let's talk taxes, but forget everything you think you know, the endless debates about rates and deductions. Today, we're digging into something totally different. It's a blueprint, a really provocative one, for building a tax system from the ground up based on a few really strict principles. So let's see what this thing's all about. I mean, it's a huge question, isn't it? If you had a blank slate, where would you even begin? Would you start with, who should pay? Or maybe how much they should pay? Well, the framework we're exploring today says nope. All of those are the wrong questions to ask first. It argues the real starting point is somewhere completely different. And that starting point is all about fiscal discipline. Think about that for a second. Before any taxes are collected, this blueprint says you have to define and lock down what the government is allowed to do and how much it can spend. It's a total flip of how we usually think about it. So, in this world, taxes aren't just some blank check you hand over to the government. Not at all. It's more like a tool that's directly connected to this promise of responsible, limited spending. The whole argument is that one just can't work without the other. They're two sides of the same coin. And this idea of fiscal discipline isn't just a vague concept. It comes with some really hard and fast rules. Rule 1, balanced budgets, non-negotiable. Rule 2, no crazy borrowing. Rule 3, government stays small. And Rule 4, spending is only for what's absolutely necessary. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of this. Okay, so the government has its rules. Now, the blueprint flips the script and looks at things from your perspective, the taxpayer. These are the principles that are supposed to protect you and define what a fair tax really means in this system. And the first big one is all about equal treatment. This leads directly to a flat tax. So forget the progressive system we're used to, where the more you earn, the higher your rate. This model says, nope, one single rate for everybody. The thinking is that the only way to treat every person equally is to treat every dollar of their income exactly the same. It's a pretty big departure from the whole taxing based on ability to pay idea. The next rule is super simple, and it's a big one. No double taxation. What does that mean? It means your money gets taxed one time, period. So after you've paid income tax on your salary, that same money shouldn't get hit again if you invest it and make a capital gain, or if you leave it to someone as an inheritance. One and done. Now, here's where things get really different from what most of us are used to. According to this blueprint, property should not be taxed at all. And we're not just talking about your house. This means any kind of property you've bought with money that's already been taxed. In this system, once you own it, it's yours. The government has no more claim on it. This next one gets pretty philosophical. It's about whether a tax is even legitimate to begin with. The source brings up the idea of a poll tax, a flat fee on every single person. And it says these are wrong, but not for the reason you might think. It's not just that they're unfair to the poor. The core idea here is that you shouldn't be taxed just for the act of, existing. All right, so we've got the foundation for the government and the pillars for the people. So how do you actually build the house? How do you write the tax code itself? Well, this blueprint gives us two main architectural rules. And these rules are non-negotiable. First, simplicity. The whole thing has to be dead simple to understand and administer. No 1,000-page tax code. Second, and this is the big one, integrity. Absolute integrity. That means no exceptions, no special exemptions for certain groups, no clever loopholes for people with good accountants. The rules are the rules for everyone, no matter what. There's another interesting design choice in here, too. The system really prefers what you could call one-off taxes. Taxes you pay a single time, like when you buy something. The idea is that these are way better than recurring taxes. Things like an annual property tax, which, as we already know, this blueprint is completely against anyway. Okay, we're heading into the home stretch. And in this final section, we're going to look at some of the, let's call them the more unusual parts of this framework. And it all wraps up with a pretty serious warning about the whole idea of taxation itself. So, whenever possible, this blueprint leans into a user pays model. It's a simple idea. Instead of everyone paying general taxes for a bunch of services, you'd pay a voluntary fee for the specific service you're using. So if you go to the park, maybe you pay a small entry fee. If you never go to the park, you don't pay. Simple as that. Now here's a term you probably haven't heard in a while: corvée taxation. The blueprint actually brings this back. It's the idea that you could pay your taxes with labor instead of money. It's an ancient concept for sure, but it's presented here as a totally valid option for people in this system. And this is where it all leads, to the single most provocative statement in the whole blueprint. It's basically a warning. The author says that the entire foundation of this system, that fiscal discipline we started with, is flat out impossible in a modern democracy where everyone gets a vote. The argument seems to be that the political pressure to just spend more and more will always win out over financial responsibility. It is a really, really challenging idea to end on. So there it is, a complete blueprint for a tax system built from the ground up on fiscal discipline, equal treatment for all, and radical simplicity. It definitely makes you question a lot of the things we take for granted in our own systems. And that brings us right back to that first big question. If you could strip it all away, what do you think is the most important, number one principle that any tax system should be built on? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.